Okay. All right, Mac, why don't you come over here so they can see what a handsome boy you are. Sit. This is Mac, and this is Mac's Roadmap to Success. Now, he does a lot of jumping up on, and he's a herding breed, but jumping up on you is kind of an indication. It's not disrespectful, but it almost indicates a lack of respect for you as an authority figure. And I think that's really a synopsis for what's going on here. I don't think he has any ill will towards his guardians at all, but I just think that he's confused into thinking that he's either in charge or has the same authority as his guardians. And if the dog thinks it's a peer, sit. Then it's not going to listen to you. Now, right there, that was a good microcosm. He jumped up on me, I retracted, and I became frozen. And as soon as he got down, then I gave him a treat. Now, you don't always have to give him a treat when he does that. You got to reach over and pet him and just say off when he does that. But as soon as he climbs on top of you or he puts his paw on top of you and you're petting him, immediately stop. Because he's telling you what to do when he's doing this. When he's doing this, it's the wrong mindset for him to have. And we want you to be a little bit more respectful. Oh, that was a burp. Thank you, buddy. All right. So let me see. We started off by talking about exercise. Being a herding breed, he's only 7, so he isn't not as crazy as he was when he was 1, 2, or 3, but he needs more exercise. Your average dog needs about an hour's worth of exercise a day, and he's not getting that. He gets some exercise, but it's not super constructive. Walking is not the most efficient way of exercising the dog. I went through some creative ways to exercise. He liked chasing the laser. He likes going up and down the stairs. He actually fetches up and down the stairs himself. Fetch is a wonderful way to burn energy. And scent games. Remember, Google scent games like sniffing, scent. And so you have him in the other room, you hide some treats around, he's got to find them. That makes him use his brain. That would be very physically draining physically draining. And start an exercise journal, write down the day at the top, and then write down the time and how many up downs in the stairs, how many fetches, how many laser circuits, how many scent games, and then sprinkle it. So the idea, you should probably like to see about every 2 to 3 hours, he's getting about 5 minutes worth of exercise in something where he's in pursuit mode, where he's like playing fetch or chasing a laser. Start off with like maybe every 3 hours, and then write down the time and he nips someone, the time he barked to the window, anything that he does that's undesirable. If he has an accident, write down the time of those as well, and the times you feed him. Then at the end of the day, give him a letter grade, A through F. And then, and if he got like a C+, the next day, play around with the elements. Add a couple extra repetitions to the up downs, or an extra whole game of fetch, or whatever it is, and keep on playing around with those elements until he gets an A day. And again, if you guys are grading him separately, then maybe come up with a different notebook so each one of you are grading him separately, because your perspective is going to be different than yours because you're with him and where you're away during the day. And once you get to an A+ behavior, then you know what he needs to succeed. And we do it in a way that's reasonable, where we're not have to take him for an hour-long walk. We're just doing little things sprinkled throughout the day. One of his problems is he likes to really look at his bottom. And I think it's probably compulsive behavior, probably impacted by not having as much exercise as he needs, and also being confused about the leader-follower dynamic. I think that he thinks he's in charge. So again, he puts his paw on me, I stop petting him. And that's what we call operant conditioning. So my behavior is dependent on his behavior. If he sits here nice and he's not putting his paws on me, doing anything inappropriate, I keep on petting him. As soon as he puts his paw on me, then I stop petting him. Remember, you have 3 seconds to either correct or reward the dog. So you need to start or stop petting him within that 3-second window. And there's a big difference between 1 second and 3 seconds. You want to do as quickly as you possibly can. Now this whimpering, crash is the word I use. You guys say down though, right? So I would change it to down or lie down, or if you want to change it to crash or something like that, you can do it. You don't have to. But if you want to change it, the best way to do it is just change it on the reward stage with passive training. So every time he comes to you, if you want to change it for come to here, every time he comes to you, just pet him and say here when he does it on his own. Or if you want to change it to crash or chill, every time he lays down, pet him and say chill. You're not doing it as a command, and you're just waiting for him to do it, and you're just marking it with a new word. It's not that hard to change new commands. Some people don't want to, but because we have kids that are going to be in the house, it'd be helpful if he had some funny command words. I think it might be beneficial. All right, so start the exercise journal, play around with the elements, and you want to keep that for like 2 to 4 weeks. Sit. Until you kind of are figuring out where he's at for an A day. And you can also see a trend. You know what? Every time it's longer than 3 hours, that's when he's nipped someone, or that's when he's had an accident or barked or whatever it is. So we can start kind of arranging and structuring the day so that he's in a position to succeed. Now, the second thing we talked about are rules of structure. He really didn't have, he has one rule, which is actually the first rule I usually suggest, not being allowed in the furniture, which is why we're on the floor here, which is great. There's one piece of furniture downstairs that he is allowed up to, and the guardians right now do it the way that I would suggest, with an invitation and for good behavior, and an invitation for each access point. Now, sometimes, if I remember correctly, the guardians were saying sometimes he does go on his own, then I would ask him to get down. Now what I usually do is I take the treat, I would throw it off the couch, say off when he licks it up. And at that point, if he tries to come up again, I would flash my hand at the last minute to block him if he tried to. I also talked about, before we get to the rules, I always forget to go about this one. I always teach people how to teach the dog to leave the room, which is super duper simple. Let's say I'm in the room and this is the doorway and this is the hallway. I just touch the dog's nose with the treat, out. And he's gonna come back, out. So what I would do is I take one of these treats for each doorway in your house, split them in half. So each doorway you get 2 practices like I just did there. And now we're putting context. Out means to leave the room and get rewarded. So I do it every doorway in the house, and then I would repeat the circuit again with another treat that I cut in half, but this time I would be standing here throwing it into the bedroom saying get out of the hallway. So out just means to go away. And because we have, we're going to eventually have grandkids here, having a strong command if the spills some, baby drops some food or something like that, we can say out and the dog leaves voluntarily while we can clean things up. Human foods that are toxic to dogs that are related to babies are avocado, grapes, and raisins. Also macadamia nuts, most roots, the green part of tomato plants, onions and garlic. But avocado is a superfood, and we give them a lot to little kids, and dogs become the first interactive toy for kids. They drop something, the dog comes over and eats it, and then the kid starts dropping stuff intentionally. Because he's done some nipping, he's a herding breed, I just want to make sure that we have stuff set up properly. Now, this is completely unrelated, but if we do have grandkids come in, one of the things I would do is get like a round tablecloth, put it on the floor and put the high chair in the middle of it and enforce the boundary. The dog's not allowed to go on that like I showed you in the kitchen. So that way, when the kid's dropping stuff, the dog doesn't come over and get it, which won't promote the kid dropping more stuff. But if the kid does drop some raisins or grapes or avocado, the dog's not lurching in to get it. And then I like to come up with funny command words like I talked about earlier. So once you take the baby out of the high chair, and then you clean up all the grapes, avocados, whatever it is. Maybe there's some goldfish, some other stuff that grandma doesn't want to clean up. You just invite the dog over, and when he licks it up, say the words housekeeping every time he licks up a piece of food. So now you have a dog trained to clean up the stuff you want, but he waits for your permission to do so. Right now, the problem is I think he thinks he can do it when he wants, because I think he thinks he's in charge of his humans. Some of the rules we went over, you have to sit before I let you in or out of the door. I go to the door, I say sit once. If you don't sit within 3 seconds, I walk away, I sit down somewhere, wait 1 minute, and set a timer for it because it'll go by too fast. Then I go back to the door, tell him to sit again. If he doesn't sit this time within 3 seconds, I walk away for 2 minutes, then 4 minutes, then 8 minutes. Keep on double length of time until when you go and say sit, he sits, and then open that door like there's remote control in his butt. The opening the door becomes the reward for him. And the jumpiness, I'm wondering if a little bit might be a little of that cortisol. Sit. I think that he's a little bit stressed out. And cortisol is the stress hormone that enters the blood. And I think there might be a little bit, usually dogs are really twitchy. It's really noticeable. But when you do reach to touch him, he does recoil a little bit. And I wonder if that's related to that. Other rules we talked about, not being allowed to be within 7 feet of a human who is eating. The humans need to eat first, so we're not going to rearrange our schedule. We're just going to eat a chip or cracker, preferably something crunchy, in 5 or more bites, then give him permission to eat. Use passive training to come up with a name that means him eating his food. So maybe you say Dario's, or the name of your favorite restaurant, sushi, as some people say pasta, whatever you want. Now, you might want to also go to Amazon and get an Omega treat toy. I mean, it's maybe a couple extra words, but it's Omega treat ball or something like that. It's a golf ball. There are different sizes. You want to get one about the size of a softball. I would start feeding him some of this kibble out of it, maybe 1 meal a day. You dump all his kibble in. He's got to nudge it just right for a couple pieces of kibble to fall out. He licks them up, and then he nudges it some more. Eventually, he gets like a little soccer player nudging this thing around the house, but it'll slow down his eating process. Right now, it's sit. He's in a fast eater to slow him down, but it's not really doing the job. And then also he's earning his food, which is going to be a boost for self-esteem and confidence for him. Let me see, not being allowed in the kitchen when we're preparing food. We just went through demonstrating that. Make sure you do the warm-up. So microwave your bacon or your roast beef, put it down on the table and sit down and pretend like you're eating. Anytime you cross the boundary, use those escalating consequences to move him back. Now, if you forget how to do establish the invisible boundary, if you forgot what the escalating consequences are, anything else we've gone over, message me. I've got videos for all this stuff I can share with you. But if I don't hear from you, I assume that means everything's going great. Now, getting back to some of the other rules. If you're going up and down the stairs, since he likes to race us, so I'd like you guys to start practicing. Wait. I think you say stay, but really, from what was described, it was really more of a wait. Wait or stay, go to the bottom of the stairs, and then call him down and give him a come or whatever the command word is. And that way, he's not racing out the door. Also, if you're going out the door with him, sit, then open the door, sit. That's much better, buddy. And then you go through the door first. Now, remember, the first one we want to do is to sit at the door before you go outside. But once you get to that point, message me. I'll share the video about teaching him to sit when the door goes open. Because we're going to have little kids coming in and out. We want him to wait for permission. Let's see, what else we went over? We went over passive training and petting with a purpose. I've been doing passive training. Every time he does something I want, I pet him and I say the command word. So if he were to L-A-Y right now, I'm not going to know what I'm spelling because that he probably won't. But if he lays down, I would pet him and say down. I'm not telling him to lay down. I'm not influencing him to lay down. I'm just waiting for him to do it on his own. Down. Perfect example. Now, I said it several times. He might have been keying on that, so usually I don't try not to do that. But every time he comes to you, pet him and say, come. Every time he lays down, pet him and say, crash or chill. Every time he sits, name all your toys. Asparagus, UFO, whatever the other ones are, carcass, for that one. But basically, coming up with those fun command words can really help. Now, the video above talks about fetch and drop it and all that, and leave it and all that, so I'm not going to touch on that based on that stuff. But passive training is just waiting for him to do it and come up with a word that means you're missing an opportunity. So if he came and laid down and I didn't see it, and you could actually tell me, you say, recognize, I reach over, crash, or whatever he's doing. So don't ask what the person is. Just if he's standing there, I assume he came and pet him and say, come. If he's laying down or he's stretching, pet him and say, stretch, whatever it is. It just gives him an opportunity to remember. And reward him for those desired actions. The more we reward him for those desired actions, the more he will offer those desired actions. Yawn. I taught my dog to do that too. All right. And the other side of the coin is what we call petting with a purpose. Petting with a purpose is waiting for the dog to voluntarily offer you some behavior, is redirecting the dog into doing it. So the dog comes and nudges me, which he likes to do, or paws at me. I'm going to give him a counter or tell him to sit. Really not. And then as soon as he sits, pet him under his chin and say sit and only the word sit. Not good sit, not his name sit, not a long sentence. We want to talk to him, that's fine if you have a bad day, but when we're training him, we want to use exclusively the command word and nothing else because they key on the first word you say. So if he is nudging me for attention, I say sit. If he's already sitting, I ask him, come and sit over here. Come here, buddy. Sit. Sit. And then I give him the treat or the reward. Doesn't have to be both. And I like to use this motion to put a dog into a sit. So remember, if he advances, bend your elbow away. And go back and then lower, let him lick it off your hand and then tickle him under his chin. We're not always going to give him a treat. So if we always get in a habit of doing this, then he at least gets some reward each time we're doing it. So for petting with a purpose, we're going to ask him to do something to change his state. So down, if he was nudging me, down. And then I can pet him for as long as I want because I asked him to do something. After a while, and what we're telling the dog is instead of telling the human what to do, that doesn't work anymore. You have to ask. Not only do you have to ask, you have to pay for it. You're paying for it through a currency of obedience. What happen is he'll come start sitting in front of you to prepay for attention. When he does, make sure you do recognize that as well. Say recognize your reward and pet him under his chin, say whatever the word is. Now, if you want to pet your dog and the dog's not doing anything or demanding attention, still ask it to sit or do something to earn its affection. It's just a great way to reinforce it. Now, if you forget, I have to get off my knees or my legs will be asleep. But if you forget, or you suspect someone's forgotten, I use the word paycheck. So I come in the room, somebody's petting the dog, it's standing. I'm assuming that person forgot. I'm going to say paycheck. That person needs to stop petting. Tell the dog to sit. When it sits, pet it on his chin, say the word sit. Then you can explain to the other person, hey, I did it, you missed it, you didn't see it. But if you argue about it before, that tells the dog that you guys are not on the same page and that it's okay for the dog to be not on its own page as well. Make sure you're eating first. I think I went over that. 5 more bites. Also, we want to do maintenance. So he doesn't really do it for the backyard, but he does it in the front where he kind of sits there and like he's on patrol. So get some paper or something so you can block the bottom part of the doorway. You could do it on the windows behind the shutters. And I'm guessing he's going to start going to the window in the dining room once he can't see out the front door. So just block it there. We want to remove temptation. We call this maintenance. That way he doesn't practice doing those things. Also keep an eye on his energy. He is a high or idle dog, and if we reward him or pet him, anything your dog's doing when you pet is what you're rewarding and really enhancing. So if you have dogs excited, you pet it, you'll make it more excited. Fearful, more fearful, all the rest of that stuff. So what we want him to do is learn to be calm and balanced. So when he's nice and relaxed, this is the time where you can pet him in a slow stroke from the nape of his neck to the base of his tail, about a 2-second stroke, and just say, chill, or settle, or zen, or some word that means to relax. Remember when you're watching TV and he has an item, pull out one of those treats, hold it here in front of his nose, don't tell him what to do, and as soon as he drops it, pop in his mouth and say drop, and don't show any interest in the object. The more you do that, the better at fetch he's gonna get, or dropping for you. Now playing tug of war is fine, but if as soon as he puts his paw on you, I would drop and let go and stop playing. Or if he jumps up on your leg or any of those things. Now also, I like using these. I actually really didn't like using these for a long time, but it's just a lot more convenient. I used to use pockets, and I'm a bachelor. I leave my dirty clothes on the floor, and my dog will chew a hole in my pocket. Plus, it smells like it. So what I do for this, the reason I like this, it's got a little clip. I can clip it on my belt, shorts, leggings. I don't wear leggings, but I'm sure you could. And you can open it up, and it's open, and you have access to the treats. When the dog tries to get in front, you just close it up, and he can't get into it. Sit. And so this way you can have this with you. One of the guardians in the house he is really enamored with. One he's a little bit more aloof with. And so the one that he's a little bit more aloof with, I would have her carry one of these things around. That way he has the ability to pay off. And make sure I know it's a dirty word in this state, but be liberal in your application of treats. We want to give him as many as possible. Not for anything, but for doing the right things and motivate him to want to do those right things. Now the last thing I'm going to talk about, and I didn't show the guardians how to do this, but if you're watching this write-up and I haven't put it in the write-up, make sure I'll have it linked in text. If I don't have a link to a stay, make sure you message me and I'll link it in there. I'd like the guardian that he follows around to start putting him into a stay and helping him stay for progressively longer periods of time. What is that? The Ferber method for human babies. So he basically, I think part of his issue is I think he has a little bit of separation anxiety with one of his particular guardians. And so when he leaves, the dog kind of freaks out a little bit. The dog has 100% access. He's with him all the time or not with him at all. It's just too much. So what I want him to do is practice being around in the house without being next to him. So next time you're in here watching TV, tell him to wait or stay. Go get a drink of water, come back, and then release him. And I teach to stay for the 3Ds. First, I teach the dog to stay for duration up to 5 minutes. And only then, crash. Only then do I move to start acting in distance. Then I start adding in distractions. And like I said, I'll have a video that will explain how to do it. But I'd like you to get into the habit of asking him to stay for progressively longer and longer periods of time. At first, like a second or two, then a couple seconds, then 10 seconds, then 20, so on and so forth. And if he's already pretty advanced, he's a smart dog, if you can already have him stay and go get a drink of water, you can start at that point. But work your way up to the point where you can have him in a stay up here and go downstairs and work for 20 minutes and come back and then release him. And that way he practices being alone, and it's not the end of the world if I'm not right next to my guardian. Practice not walking around him, walk through him whenever he's standing in your way. Don't shove walk him, just walk through him as if he's not there so he develops a choreography. My job is to get out of the way. Is there anything else I'm forgetting that I was going to go over? I think that's it, but like I mentioned earlier, if I don't hear from you, that means I'm assuming everything's going great. So if you have any questions or problems, I have videos on pretty much everything we've covered I can share with you. It's not with your dog, with other dogs, but you can watch me do it. And then if you guys do want to work on like the loose leash walking, an iFetch, I would highly advise you guys buy him an iFetch for Christmas because he likes to play fetch. If you can get him to play fetch by himself, you could actually arrange it right here and have it shoot it down the stairs. And every time he starts getting a nuisance, you just say, 24-hour, whatever the name of your favorite gym, whatever your name of gym is, and that means that he needs to go work out. And he goes and fetches for about 5 minutes. After a while, some dogs, and he already does this a little bit with the stairs, he might just start self-moderating himself. I need a little extra energy. Guardians are busy. I'm going to do it myself. So if you have problems teaching him how to do that, or you want to teach him to walk with a loose leash or any of these other things, let me know. We can set you up with the session for James, who is our lead trainer. He can come into your home and teach you guys how to do it. And so you do it, or he can actually do it for you, your preference. And we also are going to start offering daycare training, where you can actually drop your dog off at daycare. James would go grab your dog, work with it for 5 minutes, put it back in play, work with 10 other dogs, come back and grab your dog in another 5 minutes. At the end of the day, it has an hour's worth of training. You can't train a dog for an hour. When you're training, you really want to keep it about 90 seconds or less. Otherwise, the dogs get fatigued and bored. And also when you're training, make sure you always end on a good one. Now, that's one last little tip I'm going to go over is I like the guardians to go to YouTube and bump around, see if there's some easy tricks. I mean, I showed you how to do the hurricane. I can send you a video for that, or teach your dog to roll over, or sit pretty, just holding a treat up and sitting like that, put it in his mouth and say pretty or beg or whatever you want to come up with. But I'd like to see the guardians taking turns, each guardian teaching a new trick on Sunday or Monday or whatever day of the week you want, and then all week long we practice that trick for everything. And then at the end of the week, the next guardian takes over and that guardian teaches a trick or command, and then all week long we practice it. And do that so each guardian does it with 4 new tricks or commands. At the end of 2 months, now he has like 16, 17 commands. That's going to be a really great way to redirect his attention. Also, you might want to get, because when he starts licking his bottom, if we redirect him, that can be a really, redirection can be a great way to help him stay away from that. Now, I would interpret that as his way of saying, I have too much energy, I'm now thinking about these things. And so actually, next time you see him licking his bottom, I'd like you to do some up downs on the stairs. First try 10, and then keep on playing around with it and you'll see he'll be tired and he'll go and lay down and he won't be so compulsive about licking it again. Something else you might want to do is get I have the laser, like a pen, but they have little ones that are about that big. I had clients put it as a pendant around around a chain around the neck, and then come home. Every time you see him doing that, put it in front of him and zoom him around, and make sure you turn it around a corner so he doesn't see the dot disappear. He sees it go out of his line of sight, and then he'll spend the next couple minutes looking for it. But when you see him going after his bottom, I'd like you to interpret that as he probably needs a little exercise and play a game of fetch, chase the laser, up, downs on the stairs, or some scent games to redirect him away from that. But I think if you up his exercise consistently, combined with rules and structure, petting with the purpose of passive training, you should be able to mitigate that. The Guardians have already tried to take their vet several times, and they don't think that it's a medical issue. It still could be something that just hasn't been found. But from what I'm hearing, I'm guessing if you take care of the exercise and the structure, you should see less and less of that. And eventually, when the neural pathways group together differently, hopefully that's a behavior that he just gives up permanently. All right, buddy, we're going to wrap this sucker up. Let's have you come and look over here and look at the camera. That's not looking at the camera, that's looking at me. How about we go this way? Sit, sit. Well, this is Mac, and this is Mac's Roadmap to Success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog. Only sometimes you mean it.